Good afternoon. Let me welcome you to the March meeting of the St. Tammany Parish Board of Adjustment. Today is March 2nd. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Brookter, Mr. Ballantyne from Mandeville,
Here.
Mrs. Christie from Mandeville, here. Mr. Daly from Covington, here. Mr. Blosh from Mandeville, here. Mr. Spees from Lacombe, here. Mr. Swindell from Covington. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Now, would everybody please silence your electronic devices, your phones, and things like that, and keep them off during the meeting. Any appeals to any of the decisions of this Board of Adjustment should be referred to the court, 22nd court. Speaker cards are available if anyone wants one. They're over there on the table there, but I'll make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. Public speaking will be limited to 10 minutes for each side, the person requesting the variance and any opposition, and then each side would have 5 minutes for rebuttal after that. And we would ask that after your case has been heard, if you would exit the building so we can keep on with the agenda and keep going. Next, the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to look at the minutes from our February meeting, February the 1st? Can I hear a motion?
I move.
Got a motion by Mr. Blosh.
I'll second.
And a second by Mr. Daly. All in favor? Vote with your screen.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our first case today is a BOA case number 2022-2736, a BOA. Request by applicant in an A2 suburban zoning district to reduce the required no-cut buffers on the east and west sides of the property from 50 feet to 20 feet for approximately 800 feet of the property. The property is located at 23234 Low Davis Road in Covington, and the applicant is Mr. James Taylor. Can I have staff comments, please?
The objective of the request is to reduce the required side yard no-cut buffer from 50 feet to 20 feet for approximately 800 feet towards the center of the property to allow for the construction of a single-family residence. While an attempt is being made to preserve a 20-foot no-cut buffer on each side of the property, the requested variance to reduce a portion of the required 50-foot buffer along each side of the property line is a personal preference rather than a hardship. The property is approximately 250 foot wide, which leaves 150 feet in width to construct a residence.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, would you please come forward, state your name and address, please, and then add any comments you may have on this case.
Okay, my name is James Taylor. I currently reside at 24004 Low Davis in Covington. I'm asking the board for this request due to the narrow width of this property. Yes, it is 15 acres, but it's only approximately 250 feet wide. If 50 feet on each side of the left and right is taken, would leave me 150 feet, plus you have to add in your driveway to 25, 30 feet. I'd be down to probably 130, 125 feet. With being zoned A2, I would like to put up a pole barn and such, so it's not like I'm trying to get rid of trees. I did provide a diagram of it. So the first 500 feet of the property will be uncut, untouched, except a driveway going through. The middle portion, leaving the 20 feet left and right, and approximately 800 in the middle would be cleared, and the rest of the 2,000 feet on one side, 2,600 on the other would be untouched in the rear. So I'm just asking for what I plan to put buildings and possibly livestock on to expand that a little bit to help with positioning your house and pole barn and other buildings on there. And I just feel at 120 feet would force me to turn everything sideways. The property does have several beautiful trees. I would prefer to look at the oak trees than turn sideways and look at the 20 feet of 4-inch pine trees. So.
I have to interrupt for just a second. I failed to recognize Mr. Dewey Spees as a voting member of the board today. Any questions or comments from Mr. James Taylor? Mr. Blaze?
There's no opposition, President.
Oh, and is there any opposition to this case? Seeing none, I'll recognize Mr. Blush.
Okay, if you could help me to understand this, Mr. Taylor, because I'm trying to get an idea of, you're talking about cutting a road, you want to go over 20 feet into 30 feet into the no-cut buffer to cut your road alongside one side, or?
The road, so
I'm sorry, I looked at this and I couldn't really understand it too
so
well. It's
what I
kinda
did is
right.
it's not proportioned, but the front part is uncut, a driveway going through. My request is 20 feet to give me the width on each side, so I'm not at 120 in the middle. So if the current 50 feet would only leave me with 120 to 125 after the driveway would come through.
So for the first 500 feet, it's going to stay outside the 50-foot buffer, so that's his driveway.
Okay.
Then for about, for just this portion here.
Right.
Then he wants to go to 20 feet to be able to build his house.
Right, I understand.
And
So
then the rest is gonna
that's
remain.
800 feet that we're saying from here?
It's
Just
approximately
forward.
4 acres in the middle, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm only clearing 4 of the almost 15. But just to get the width in that 4
Yeah.
to put the
Well,
house.
I'll just say, we've done this in the past, but what we're doing is allowing for a side load for a garage, that kind of thing, rather than destroy the whole 50-foot
Yeah.
buffer
Well,
zone.
The driveway would be put at one side. So the
Right.
driveway would come in and then go to the side so you can go in. So, and I have a camper, which, you need the radius to turn. So it would get close to the 20-foot buffer and then come in to the residence. And
I'm trying to understand, because that wouldn't take 800 feet to be able to do that, to make that maneuver. And I'm
No,
just
no,
curious
no,
as to why you're asking for 800 feet.
Well, I'm asking so I can push the barn to the side, so I can look out front and not look at a barn or look at other buildings. I would like to have where my property faces north and south.
Right, I understand.
So I would like to look south and not look directly at a barn and look at some of the field or what we have instead of putting the barn right there. If I can shift the barn, the driveway on one side and the barn to the other, I could look not directly at a barn.
I understand. And there is a neighbor to the west of you?
Yes.
And have you spoken with them at all about this?
I have not. He was on vacation, and I was on vacation prior to that, so I have not spoken with him.
Okay, can you help me out as to where your house would be in terms of where this house is that was
My
submitted to the
house
radio?
would be as far to the east side as I could make the driveway come in and be able to turn in.
I understand, but what I mean is in the depth of the property with regards to the alignment of the other house, where is that in?
So we would be probably a little bit in front of that house that Brian owns to the west side.
Okay,
So there was an existing house that was torn down, and it's just laying there. We're probably gonna go right, if that is a satellite view that shows where that is, we'd probably go there. So we're gonna keep 500 feet untouched in the front and go from that to give me about 100-foot front yard, then the house, and then the rest clear in the back.
I understand, okay.
Just for the benefit of the board, the abutting property owner called, and I explained the request, and it appeared from the conversation that I had that he did not have any objection.
Okay.
The abutting neighbor called. Yeah. He didn't give me anything in writing, but he
Yeah,
called.
my only consideration there is this, is we've had many cases like this and we've turned them down. based on the fact that we did want to maintain that 50-foot buffer. Without some sort of compelling reason, I'm looking for one. I want to say yes, but I'd like to understand, what that compelling reason is beyond just a personal preference.
I just don't feel I'll have enough room with 120 feet to put a house, a barn, some other buildings, and be able to swing in the driveway.
No, I get it. I
Because,
understand.
regular subdivisions, 180 to 100, and, you can't swing a camper, you can't, and if you put a barn, I would be almost literally looking at the barn, and the barn would be right on the 50-foot side of the west.
What about behind the house, the barn? Looks like you have a lot of acreage going way back.
Way back, I wasn't planning to clear all that, and I just didn't want to look out the rear of the house and look right at a barn. I would prefer to push it over a little bit,
Okay,
so.
I understand. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Sir, you're saying that the preponderance of the trees that are in the back or the south part of the property are hardwood, and that,
Mainly pine, 4 to 6 inch pine. They do have a few that, and I described them. There was a few in the closest. They were like city park oak trees. They're beautiful trees. That is in the 4 acres that I would like to be able to view. But the rest of it, we're not touching. We have no plans on cutting anything. It's just what we would build a house on and call it a little bit backyard. So.
Mr. Spees?
Can you come up with something different?
In 120 feet, the only thing I could propose that I looked at is to turn everything sideways. But you would still have the driveway coming in, but then my house would face east and west, not north and south. So I would really be looking directly at the neighbor during the winter when all the brush and all dies. I would be, between the trees looking at the neighbor, and I want to respect his privacy the way he respects mine. I would prefer the house north and south so I could look back, not left or right. And I just, in 120 feet, by the time the 200, the 50 feet on each side leaves me 150, and then you put in a driveway, I'm right at 125, 130 if I made a smaller driveway. So that's why I would prefer to, I respect the buffer. I'm just asking if the board would let me reduce it a little bit so I can fit everything.
See, the problem is, we set a precedence when we do that. And then everybody that follows us could do the same thing, and then we're taking all the trees down. So that's the problem.
Yeah, and again, I'm only taking 4 acres. I'm leaving 500 in the front, and one side is almost 1,000 feet, one side is probably 700 feet. It's an odd-shaped lot or piece of property. So that is all untouched. I am just asking for 30 feet of 800 on each side, and that's it. I'm leaving the front, I'm leaving the back, I'm not touching anything except a little bit in the middle. So, but I do understand.
Mr. Daly?
I mean, I didn't do the math, but it seems like proportionally, even if you kept the 50-foot buffer and you cleared everything in the middle, you are clearing less than what that would be with the plan. In this case, I mean, I think part of it is how unusual this plot is, and it looks like every neighbor next to you also has this strange configuration where it's very long strips, and crossing the road, actually.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there is some compelling argument about the unusual nature of this, much like a triangle lot or something like that. So, yeah, I think, I don't know if there is some way to preserve those woods in a motion, or if you're amiable to that, or what that would be, but I mean, something to balance the proportionality of the side, clearing into the sides with the, keeping the depth of the wooded area, but maybe not, maybe that's just not the question in front of us, so. I'm just commenting, I guess. Thinking out loud.
I think it would, if it's okay.
Yes.
I think I'd feel a lot more comfortable if it wasn't on both sides, for one, going a distance of 800 feet. If it were providing some sort of utility or usage as to allow for a, swing for a, entrance to a side or entrance. Both sides, I don't get it. To me, that, I don't feel comfortable with that. One side, I know we've done this in the past, it has been an allowance for that, but it wasn't on both sides. It was just up to that point where it was needed, and at that point in time, it was cleared. And there's been a few of those cases, as I recall, where we've allowed that area in the back behind to be untouched as well to the front and on the side, opposite of what was being asked for. So my opinion of this, just to kind of clear this for you, to make you understand, I feel very comfortable with possibly allowing that on one side for a side yard or a side entrance. On the other side, and I don't feel very comfortable at all. And I would think that it would have to be within the range. I don't think 800 feet is appropriate as well. That's just my opinions of this.
Okay.
I mean, I've looked at the drawing of the house, and, the house, it's what my family liked. I mean, if it if I get the no, then yeah, I have to go redo some plans and all. But, to me, just 120 feet just for 800, if you have livestock in the back and a barn and everything else, 100 wide is not a whole lot width, so, but,
It's not just building area.
Postpone it to another meeting.
well,
It may fail tonight.
Yeah,
I
we're
mean, I was, hoping the board would just be able to see, was trying to get this ball rolling with clearing property and all that, and, I understand the council just meets every once a month, if I'm mistaken, so waiting another month and waiting to start clearing is just kind of prolonging the process. I would, like to see if the council would please accept the, my request of the 20 feet on each side, and, and if I would have to redo a lot with plans and everything else, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the board? Would anyone like to try a motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
I would second that.
So we have a motion by Mr. Daly to approve the variance as requested, and a second by Ms. Thomas. Any other discussion? Seeing none, vote with your screen.
We have 3 yeas and 2 nays, so motion fails.
We need, Mr. Taylor, we need 4 positive votes for the variance to pass, and we only got 3.
Okay.
So your request for variance failed.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, the next case on our agenda this afternoon is BOA case number 2022-2738. BOA, it's a request by applicant in an MD3 medical facility district for a waiver of the required 10 feet side buffer planting areas on each side of the property line, and a waiver of the required number of Class A and Class B trees. The property is located at 16300 Highway 1085 in Covington. The applicant is Healthcare Rentals 2 and R4 Holdings. The representative is Mr. Jeff Shane.
The objective of the requested waiver is to allow for the construction of a boulevard-type access to the site. While the boulevard-type access is not required, It will provide adequate and safe ingress and egress to the approximately 18-acre site, which is proposed to be developed with a new ambulatory surgery center. Staff has no objection to the request, considering that the required 10-foot buffer is proposed to be provided mitigated as follows: 13-foot planting area within the median boulevard entrance and 2-foot green belt along the side property line. A minimum of 12 Class A and 12 Class B trees are required to be provided within a required 10-foot buffer planting area. No landscape or mitigation plan has been submitted as part of the variance application. However, a total of 6 Class A trees and shrubs are proposed to be provided within the median, and the remaining required number of trees are proposed to be provided within the other required buffers throughout the proposed development. Should the board be in favor of the requested variances, it should be subject to the following: provide a landscape plan showing the proposed 6 Class A trees and shrub within the median, and the remaining required number of trees within the other required buffers throughout the development, in addition to the minimum required number of trees within the entire development.
Mr. Shea, do you have anything to?
Yes, sir.
Or please state your name and address, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I'll be representing the petitioners, but also St. Tammany Parish Hospital, which is actually the operator and the benefactor, if you will, of this variance. As staff has indicated, the hospital would like to build a surgical ambulatory center at this location. In laying out the site plan, we believe it's beneficial to have a boulevard road connection, although a boulevard is not required, but we think it'll better facilitate the traffic flow within the site. I should add that probably all of you have picked this up already, but this is behind the Paul Cordes Pavilion on Highway 1085, sometimes known as Bootlegger Road. So it's south and east of it, but part of that same track. So as staff has indicated, although we will not have a 10-foot buffer per se on the property line, we are accommodating, if you will, with a 2-foot strip, but also a 13-foot planted area in the median. Furthermore, all of the plantings that are required by code will be made somewhere on the site, so we're in full accord with the suggestion of staff that if you were to approve this variance, that we would present the necessary plan showing the types of plantings, where they're going to be located, et cetera. We think it's really going to be a handsome site. I don't say that to be self-serving, but the hospital is excited about providing this facility for the people of the parish, particularly those on the west side of the parish. And we hope that you will see it fit to grant this variance so that we can proceed with our project. If any of you have any questions, I will be glad to address them at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the board? If I may, I have a question for the staff. Reagan she hasn't reviewed this yet. She would review it when the.
We reviewed it together a little bit, and there's no major objection to the request.
Okay. And like Mr. Shane said, they would come in with.
Yeah, the
on
revised
plannings.
plan, yeah.
Right, okay. I see no requests for any other, can I hear a motion, please?
To approve 2022-2738.
Have a motion by Mr. Spees to approve the request for variance as submitted with the concurrence with the staff comments. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Daly. Any other discussion? Please vote with your screen.
Motion carries.
Request for variance passes. Sir, I didn't recognize you. Is there something we can do for you?
No, sir, I was with Jeffrey, and I'm representing one of the property owners.
So you're happy with the outcome?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Helen.
Right.
All right. That concludes our, now we've got one other issue. can I go straight into that? In the package is a resolution that will be taken to the parish council about after-the-fact cases. As background, this has been going on for some 2 years when we wanted to review and make more of a deterrent for the frequency of that we get for after-the-fact cases. So the staff has developed this beautiful resolution that will be taken before the council, and the board has to approve it. My only comment about it is I don't believe the increase in the application fee to $750 is sufficient to make it any much of a deterrent. So I think the fee has to be more than that, but up to you all and see what you all think. And any other questions about the request, for what we're doing here. And I would like to add, I went back and read, we did a review in the state and other states to see what they did for after-the-fact cases, and the fees for after-the-fact in other parishes in the state of Louisiana probably are in the range of that $750. But in some cases, especially in Florida, the counties in Florida would triple the amount of the fees. So they could be as high as $1,500, say. And as I recall, under Louisiana law, the fees have to be less than $5,000. 5 is a maximum they can be. So anyway, any other comments or, yes?
Well, I think 750 would be a good place to move it to. That's just my thoughts on it.
Mr. Spees is commenting, he's happy with $750.
Not all of the after-fact cases, are predicated upon some contractor saying, let's do it, tis better to get. A lot of these cases are people that don't know that they have done something wrong, and so then we're sort of punishing an innocent person. Now, $750 I think is fair, but to go higher than that in Louisiana, and in this, because we're looking at Washington Parish and different areas, I just think $750 is probably appropriate.
And what'd you say the max was, 1,000 in Louisiana?
5,000.
5,000,
I
okay.
just,
I misunderstood.
That was, when we were doing this research, like I said, this has been going on for 2 years. And in some of that research, it was reported that under Louisiana law, the maximum fee you can have is $5,000. Mr. Blush.
Ms. Thomas brings a really, really good point, solid point in that, one, this is Louisiana, needs to be commensurate with, I guess, the income in the area for one thing. Number two, there's some innocent people, as she was, stating, that really don't know they're doing wrong. And one that sticks out in my mind was that elderly gentleman over in Slidell, whose deck was eaten up by termites, I believe is what it was.
I remember that one, too.
And he just was replacing what was already there, the existing structure, and then he was provided, or I guess he was given a cease and desist, on that and brought to us. He had to pay that fee to come in. I would feel very comfortable if there were some way to, I don't know, for fees, maybe make it a little bit higher, like you were saying, 750, maybe even as much as 1,000. I'm kind of with you on that as a deterrent. But for those people who innocently, and I guess it would be up for us to decide whether or not it was blatant and rolling the dice, so to speak, there should be some sort of way not to penalize these people, keeping in mind that gentleman we're talking about. There'll be other folks that will, I guess, I think that's all I have to say about it, but I just don't understand. I'm not sure how we can do that. Maybe council had some ideas on that, if it's in fact legal to do that, for one thing. Number two, And what I'm talking about is maybe a refund of those fees after they found it to be, if they went. Right, well, more or less, yeah. Yes, I mean, I don't know. It just seems, I'm trying to find an equitable way to handle this, and it just doesn't seem fair. Thinking about some of these elderly folks that have had these kind of cases in the past, I would feel horrible enforcing that in that sort of type of case. In other words, asking him to pay $750 or $1,000 just to come in and be relieved of that burden.
Inflation is going up high, high, high. $500 is not much anymore. So gotta go $750.
No, and I agree, we have to find some deterrent for this because it has been a while. It's just the cost of doing business, like that.
I mean,
Go ahead, Emily.
I think there is some concern about where you draw that line, who makes the determination of whether it's a blatant, trying to work around of the ordinances or an innocent, just kind of, rebuilding of what was there. I think maybe if you built that into the bylaws in some respect to say, an individual who rebuilt something that was damaged is coming in is treated as a variance rather than after the fact variance. I don't know. I don't know how you would do that or what the proper device would be. I don't think that it would be proper to reimburse someone's application fee depending on the outcome of their case. I think that would be problematic.
Okay.
But whether you left it up to staff to determine what is a variance and what is an after-the-fact variance, and in a case like that, maybe replacing what was there in exactly the same footprint as what was there would be considered a variance instead of an after-the-fact variance which is building something entirely new outside of any previously existing footprint, and leaving that to their interpretation would be one way to handle that. Or, like I said, trying to make that distinction in the bylaws for those cases that you discussed.
I personally feel comfortable with staff making that call. If we could have, the past having them come forward like this and be charged an extra fee for something that really, really wasn't blatant. I think what we're trying to address here, Mr. Chairman, is the idea that people, like I said, we're just playing the dice, rolling the dice. I won't go personally, but we've seen slabs built on lines, property lines, thinking, they're not going to make it tear that down, it's too expensive. And yet we did, and we have to. I think we have to do these things, or we lose any kind of purpose for the ordinances to begin with.
I think it's very difficult for staff to make a determination, and it's a personal decision, I would say, because I may interpret a case a particular way where someone else in my office can interpret it a different way. So if you started building before you obtain your building permit, unfortunately, you have a fee that you have to pay. Or, you always have the option of tearing down what you started. So I don't think I would be comfortable just to make that decision myself and no one else in my office either. So that the board wants to increase the fees, well, you have the right to increase the fees, but.
Well, I'm certainly involved, in favor of raising those fees as a deterrent, but I'm really against punishing someone who really, really had no idea.
But wouldn't that all come under the permit end of it, really? It's not anything we get involved in, right, Helen? That's more in the permit, and they go out and look at the job, and they say, well, you needed a permit. You're violating the law, right? That's more in their area, right?
Yeah, well, if we are informed that someone is building something in violation, code enforcement will post the property. And, their building permit is going to be double fee as well. But at that point, they can make a decision. Is that, am I going to tear down what I started or move it where it's supposed to be? I clearly inform the public when they come to my office, you will have to demonstrate a hardship. Mm-hmm. And so that's for them to make a decision at that point, where am I going to leave the structure there or whatever I've started in where it is, or am I just going to tear it down and move it? And, be honest, sometimes people just decide to just tear down or move it to where it's supposed to be. because they don't feel that they are able to prove a hardship, so.
Mr. Daly, you,
Yeah, I mean, the conversation's moved on a little bit from what I was going to talk about, but yeah, I mean, I think, and then the other thing is that it is very hard when after the fact shows up that we would, actually pass it. I mean, that's another deterrent, in the fact that we would have to vote on it. So there's those two stages, both the fee and the deterrent. But I mean, I'm getting somewhat convinced that the 750 is fine, raising it, but not getting it to, having an upper bound that's reasonable. It's right now, it's almost 4 times every other fee. So that's pretty, that says something when someone sees it, that fee schedule. So, or sorry, it's proposed to be almost 4 times that fee, yeah.
And also, if I may add, is I always inform someone that in the event that they decide to move forward, in applying for the variance, to calculate or think about the cost. Okay, well, at this point, it's $500. Well, if you decide that you're gonna pay the fees, go in front of the board, but in the event that the variance is not approved, then you're out of $500. You still have to move the structure or correct the situation, and you'll be double fee anyway because you started building without a permit. So at times, people have started thinking, well, I may be out of $500 and I still have to correct the situation. So they decide to just correct the situation instead of taking a chance. So now if we raise it to $750, I think that the public is gonna maybe reflect on, okay, well, do I really have a hardship, or can I correct the situation and reduce the size of the building?
okay.
Mr. Chairman, so will you present this to the parish council, or
I will.
you will present it to the parish council? Okay.
I spoke it quite quickly, but I understand that I will take it to the council and present it. That was going to be the next issue.
Did you attend that and sort of give them a preview on the last council meeting?
No.
You were going to be in attendance. Okay, so you were going to wait till we had a resolution. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So if it passes the BOA, we'll need to find a council sponsor. I know that you've been in touch with Councilwoman O'Brien.
O'Brien.
I think that she'd be willing to sponsor it, but she didn't want to come before the council until there was something to act upon. So if y'all pass this today, we'll get in touch with Ms. O'Brien, see if she's still willing to sponsor it, and then we'll get it on for hopefully the April council agenda.
All righty.
Okay, any other discussion?
You need a motion.
Need a motion.
All right, I move that we approve this.
As written at
As-
$750.
As written, yeah.
We have a motion by Mr. Spees to approve the resolution at $750, and do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Thomas. Any other discussion? Vote with your screen.
Motion carries.
Motion carries, motion passes. Thank you. And please, if we could get it on the agenda as soon as possible. If I need to speak to Madam O'Brien, I'd be glad to.
Yeah, it'll have to be in an ordinance, so it'll only be on for introduction in April and then be up for adoption in May. So they probably won't want to discuss it until it's on for adoption in May, because it's going to have to change an existing ordinance.
So does he sign it today?
Yes, you can sign the resolution, because that's something the BOA has done.
Okay, any other business? What's it look like for, when do we meet again? April?
Yes, I think we have 4 cases for April.
4 cases for April.
That's the minutes. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to motion that we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn, and how about a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I was going to make a comment. I will, Mr. Brookter is not here again today, and I will be talking to him on the phone.
Okay.
he may want to resign from the board. And so I'll talk to him